Welcome to this session of training. This is another short video series that we've been working on. And today it's one that I've been working on for almost 20 years, trying to get the industry to understand the difference between months no sale and months no receipt. If you've ever listened to any of my webinars or been to any of my workshops, you'll understand that typically I usually start all of them off with the months no sale versus months no receipt education. So this is nothing more than going through that once again. And we have certainly seen the evolution over the last 10 years where now the DMS systems and even the manufacturers are starting to catch hold of how critical months no receipt is to months no sale. And my goal today is to educate you as to how you can do this to make it work properly for your dealership for managing obsolete and aged inventory. It all really starts back with when you think of months no sale versus months no receipt. And to some of you, this may be a whole new concept. We have for years, and I mean for years, always measured our inventories by the months no sale report. That was the first report that ever came out, and I'll be the first one to tell you, and this even dates me a little bit. Back in the early 70s, this is exactly what we looked at, and the only thing we cared about was the months no sale report that came off our DMS systems. But one of the things you have to understand, this correlation between months no sale and months no receipt, is there's really two different languages that are taught at the dealership level. There's partsies and there's dealersies. And believe you me, these are two very different views of measuring inventory. When you look at partsies, again, this is looking at the inventory from a sales perspective, AKA the months no sale receipt. But dealers, they look at it from the investment perspective. The last time they wrote a check for a part, which is the months no receipt portion of it. In fact, the best way to really illustrate this, and I've told this story 1,000 times, and most parts managers totally get this, is when their dealer has gone to a 20 group and they come back from a 20 group, and you sit down in a room with them, and they're all excited because they've figured out how to get from the bottom or the middle of the book to the top of the book by talking with other dealers. They talk in a language that is very foreign to you. In fact, you sit there for a couple hours, you listen, you kind of, yeah, okay, but you're really kind of lost based on their composite book and their measurement of your inventory versus what you're used to looking at. And that is why there's two completely different languages spoken in the dealership environment because of the way we've been taught to analyze inventory. So I'm going to give you a simple scenario. This is an easy scenario for you to follow. A couple of slides here that'll illustrate what I'm getting at. Months no sale versus months no receipt. Let's assume that you have a filter that you sell 12 times per year or once a month. If you went out and pulled the history file, you see that you basically sell one every month, January, February, March, April. And your 12-month total is one a month, 12 per year. And now your current on hand is zero. And along comes your manufacturer. And the manufacturer has a special program where if you buy a certain amount of these filters, they'll give you a 10% discount below dealer net. And so you make the decision to get the 10%, you gotta buy 5 cases or 60 of these filters. You make the purchase, you get the discount, hoping demand might increase. Based on your current demand, all you have to simply do is divide 60 into 12, and you, in essence, just bought, based on current demand, you just bought a 5-year supply of these filters. And again, You're hoping it increases, but that 10% discount carrot looked really good. So now we go to the demand after the purchase. And let's say that the demand does not change. You continue to sell one filter per month. This is where the month's no sale and the month's no receipt, the understanding comes in. Each month that you sell the filter, the remaining balance of the unsold filters, or that value, stays in the 0 months no sale or 0 to 3 months no sale based on management reports. The aging does not change. This part number does not age at all. You sell one in the first month, you got 59 left, you run your month-end report, the balance of the remaining 59 will always stay in the 0 months no sale. You sell second month, third month, fourth month, fifth month, you got 55 left. Remember, those 55 will always stay in the 0 months no sale category because you at least sold one in the current month. But on the other side of the spectrum, each month you sell this filter, the remaining balance will continue to age in the months no receipt, or the last receipt date category with some of these DMS systems. To really put it into perspective and to sum this simple scenario up, it's 2 years down the road. We're looking 2 years down the road now, and you've continued to sell one every month for 25 months. You still have 35 filters left. And remember, the total inventory balance of those 35 filters make it look like it's an active moving part. The balance of the 35 filters is still in 0 to 3 month aging value. However, the total inventory balance of the 35 filters based on receipts is in the 25 and greater because you haven't receipted them into your system in over 24 months. Completely different sides of the spectrum when aging. So let me give you a scenario here looking at an inventory with about $279,000 worth of inventory. This is what I'm getting at. If you look at the 0 to 3 months no sale, taking and thinking of those filters as an example, in the 0 to 3 months no sale category, you see 177,811. Looks really good. 64% of your inventory looks like it's active and doing a really good job. And if you go down, and again, this is in the months no sale by age in this report on the left-hand side. If you go down and look at the aging report, the 13 to 24 months no sale shows $18,267. And the 25 and greater shows $867, period. So add those two percentages up, and 6.86% of the inventory looks like it's idle or obsolete. Go over to the months no receipt report on the right-hand side, and now look at the 13 to 24 and the 25 months no receipt and greater, and the 6.86% obsolescence problem based on receipts is really 21.51% between the two of them. So all of a sudden you got $69,000 based on receipts in obsolete inventory and only $19,000 in obsolete inventory based on the months no sale report. This is where the dealers, remember the last time they wrote a check and you receipted them in, this is what the dealers are looking at. In reality, what you really have is you have $59,000 worth of obsolete inventory, not $19,000. Now, when you go and look at the months no sale versus months no receipt on a Reynolds and Reynolds monthly analysis, remember, typically the default is set here for the months no sale report, which is exactly what you're seeing here. But one of the things you can do, and again, this is just a screenshot, you can freeze this if you want, but at least with Reynolds and Reynolds now, and they've had this for about 3 years, is you can go out and you can go into 2321 option 35, and this option 35, you can flip this to age your inventory based on the last receipt date. You flip this to a Y and run a 2213 report. You'll now get your inventory aging by last receipt. And for those of you listening that might be on the Reynolds DMS system, just be aware that once you flip this, the age category is not still months no sale. The age category now becomes the months no receipt category. Typically what we suggest is that you leave it at months no sale. You run your 2213 after you've done your month close, your 2081, and then immediately turn around after you've closed the month and the 2213 is printed, flip 2321 option 35 to Y, run the 2213 again. You've already run your month end, so you don't have to run that again. Just running the 2213 report. Now you can lay the two side by side, and going back to that last slide, you can then see that right here, now you can put the months no sale report and the months no receipt report side by side to each other. Just remember to go back into 2321 option 35 and turn it back to N after you ran that second 2213 report. Now with CDK, for those of you that are on CDK, this is the easiest one of them all. And most people just don't understand. You have on your monthly summary report, you have your inventory movement by sales, and right below it is inventory movement by receipts. I gave an example here in the over 12 months and the 7 to 12 months, looking at these two categories. I gave examples of the top section is exactly like the slide I showed with the months no sale and months no receipt individually. CDK has them right underneath each other that you can do comparisons on these critical areas of your inventory. Now it gets a little more difficult with DealerTrack, DealerBuilt, and a few others. Here, they're doing the aging going backwards. They have the never sold parts, and then all of a sudden, 2018 May or older, this was actually done in May of 2019, the table that I got here. So you'd actually have to add up May, April, and March to get your 0 to 3 months, February, January, December. You can see that they put them into green, and then they have the red starting at the 7th month. In technical obsolescence, it's basically an orange, and then in red is the older, which you can break down into those categories. But one of the things with DealerTrack and aging is they do not have a months no receipt aging report like this. This is based on months no sale. So let's think about this. Months no receipt. Now that hopefully you've grasped what I'm getting at with months no sale versus months no receipt, is when you think about it, going outside of our typical dealership management report boundaries, is we want to look for what's the best way to really look at this. Is it really months no sale or months no receipt? And this was a great slide that I found from a supply chain expert that really got right to the heart of what I'm trying to discuss. This supply chain expert came up with modeling retail inventory obsolescence. It said, to be better able to identify slow and non-moving merchandise, retailers would need to develop a practical yet effective model for merchandising aging. You must be capable of aging items and mapping obsolescence in an objective and timely manner. Objective and timely manner. Here, this expert said, use the supplier receipt date of merchandise. That's the basis for stock aging, AKA last receipt date for what we do at the dealership level. And maybe this will help nail it down a little bit more. Our manufacturers always use the last receipt date when aging inventory. For those of you on stock replenishment programs like RIM and Arrow, we get phone calls all the time where someone has a RIM or Arrow guaranteed part that shows 20, 22 months, no sale. And they're wondering why the manufacturer hasn't taken it back. Then we go look at the last receipt date, and the last receipt date is under 12 months with Chrysler and under 16 months with GM. They're looking at the last time they sold it to you. Nobody knows better than the last time a part was sold to a dealer than your manufacturer. So even your manufacturers put all the emphasis on last receipt date. So thinking about that month no receipt and going way back to that one slide that showed the variance of 59,000 in obsolescence versus, 19,000. What effect would this have on your inventory reporting? Well, one of the things, it may look good in that 0 to 3 months category and look like it's active, but it would show up showing a higher day supply, because this is basically excess inventory, which is the bottom button. This is where your on hand is greater than your best stocking level. And it would also show up definitely with a lower inventory turn rate. If your inventory looks really good and you don't have hardly any obsolescence, but your turns are very low, like anywhere between 4 and less, more than likely you have an excess inventory problem or a depth issue within your inventory. That's really critical to understand when you're looking at this months no sale versus months no receipt. So really, in conclusion here, what's the best way? Should I continue to look at months no sale? Should I look at months no receipt? If I only had one way personally to really manage my inventory, I'd want to do it by receipts. But if I have both of these critical aspects, one of the things that I can tell you is I can shoot a lot of holes in the no sale report. In fact, it used to be you could post lost sales to your lost sales to parts that were aged, and it would take the months no sale aging out of the scenario, and parts managers would prematurely go in and post a bunch of lost sales to aged inventory to make it look better. Obviously, turns and whatnot looked really bad, but they've since pretty much closed that loophole. The other thing is, and we see this a lot now with the DealerTrack DMS systems, DealerTrack does not delete any part numbers that are added to this system. We've seen some DealerTrack clients who have been on the system 13, 14 years, and they have these massive databases of part numbers, which 80% of the part number population hasn't moved in over 13 months, no history, and they continue to age. And you've got a part that might be 5 years old that you've never receipted, and then all of a sudden you receipt the part in and you haven't fulfilled the sale, and this part instantly is at 60 months no sale, but the last receipt date is blank. It's 0 because you just receipted it. That's where we can shoot lots of holes in that months no sale report. And it's like you have a lot of explaining to do with some of these anomalies of these really high age parts. Now, I can still shoot a couple of holes in the months no sale report, but a lot less than I can in the months no sale report. But I'll tell you what, and this is the conclusion and the crux of the whole thing, you can't shoot any holes in a comparison of both together, months no sale versus months no receipt. When you're building returns and you're working on returns, the best way to go get your oldest inventory is to actually select the parts, let's say 13 months no sale and greater, and that's a critical and 13 months no receipt. This way, you're pulling all parts that have aged both in receipts and sales accurately, always making sure that you're taking your oldest inventory and purging that first, whether returns, purges, or whatnot, depending on your manufacturer specifications. That's the right way to do it. So again, if you only had one way to do it, and you could, I'd do it by months no receipt. Most of us still live by the months no sale report. In fact, I term the months no sale report on the MGRs and the 2213s and the management trend analysis reports as the sports page for most parts managers. I call it the sports page because it's typically the first place you go to and the last place you look. This concludes this small part of our training series. Hopefully next month you'll look for the next training session that we'll have, which at that time we'll cover the source setups and why sourcing is so critical to dealership this day and age. If you need to contact us, the information's right here on the slide, Parts Edge in San Diego. You can contact operations@partsedge.com, and our specialists will be happy to get back to you. Thank you, and we'll look forward to hearing from you, or we'll talk to you again in a month. Have a good day.